Well, hello, everybody. How are you doing? It says that I'm live. Yeah, I was just jamming out on a little bit of a side note there on the old iTunes. Mama's Pride. Oh, yes, indeed. The pride of St. Louis. Hello, KC95. Long live the pig. And hello to Daryl's house. If you ever get a chance, check out some of those classics that Daryl Hall had. Fantastic music, folks. It's magic. So welcome everybody. Favor be upon us all. Nothing missing, nothing broken. Be of service to others. And if it's your birthday, party on. That's all I got to say. And we are indeed prospering. The fact that we're here right now at this moment sharing the telepathic cosmic highway, like, hello, Deborah Sloan. How are you doing? So good to see you. Eye of the Maelstrom, we're making the connection. Hello, Nina the Mystic. She's got her show today right after mine, hour, I think, later. That's the point. We're all doing it. We do it naturally. It's just that when we get together with other empaths, intuitives, psychics, witches, wizards, yeah, choose your title if you shall. It's really all up here. So, hey, enjoy it. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for hitting the like button. And thank you for subscribing. Amazing what happened yesterday. Suddenly there was, an increase. Gee, well, we just send out good thoughts to everybody, don't we? Let's see what else is happening. I want to show y'all this. So this came in my email, in one of these articles that, they come across. And let me share this with you because there's something going on everywhere now, everywhere. And y'all know this. Many of you are sending me, links to the videos. Everybody is doing this. Oh, it may not be that egregore because they don't know what an egregore is. That's cool. A lot of us didn't know what an egregore was. But yet, the strange thing is, it's popping up everywhere. And check this out, folks. So here I get this and boom. How to train your brain to get what you want in 60 days. Let me just tell you what the real title should be to this, taking nothing away from Dr. Hardy. He's spot on in what he wrote about. But Dr. Hardy, I would suggest you delve into the thought forms, the egregores. Yeah. But anyway, so this has been a principle, whether you've been Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, Zig Ziglar, Brian Tracy. I mean, I've gone through them all. If you've done the Est, if you've, yeah. And all what that was initiations, preparations for the initiate to arrive here. But it says anyway, so what this article goes on to say, what Dr. Hardy writes about, is that we create, we're immersed into this cauldron, but it's amazing how we can be in the midst of chaos, but yet have an island of serenity. And it's all done through the mind. I read this article about those who have done prison time. And there's two different types of beings in confinement, forced confinement. There are those who reject it and cannot adapt to it. There's others who realize that the real journey is in here. Like John McCain had said that when he was in the Hanoi Hilton, that's what they did. I think he said he played a number of holes of golf. It's quite remarkable what this is. So anyway, look at this. Magical things happen when you begin to pay attention. Now, I have met Peter Thiel. And he's a good guy. He's really a good guy. He says, how can you achieve your 10-year plan in the next 6 months? Most of the billionaires that I've known, millionaires, entrepreneurs, tech giants, we all started out back in the 90s. We didn't have a freaking clue as to what we were doing. We just knew instinctively that we were the tip of the spear of a major cultural change in the way humanity would, number one, socialize, do commerce, and interact. And in less than 25 years, it has completely altered this. It started with a thought. And if you really look at the ARPANET, that eventually grew to become the Ethernet, and it's quite amazing how it arrived at the Ethernet and how it grew from there, because that's exactly where it grew from. So, yeah, just I found it a little, how shall we say, a little interesting that, you know, here we are in our little journey, little quest. I can't take any more on the list. I cut it off. And it looks like we're going to end up, of all things, it looks like 77. I find that rather significant as well. And it's going to be fun. It's interesting, the enthusiasm I am getting from y'all. We haven't even started this. We're going to start it May 1st. And I'm finishing up on the handout for the workshop. Here's what I've heard already. Someone wrote and said, a thought form whose foundation is gratitude, thanksgiving, supernatural peace. We've talked about all of those, yeah. Someone else said, well, you've already, as I mentioned yesterday, created an egregore of favor. Nothing missing, nothing broken. Yeah. I dig that. So, yeah, no, happy 420 day. Okay. It can be 420 all the time. So that's what this group's done. I'm excited about this. The enthusiasm, as I was telling Trina yesterday, and loved the show yesterday. Wow, we've got an enthusiastic group. I'm telling you what, this is the kind of dynamics that superstar companies, if I was to incorporate this enthusiasm as a group into a company, into a product, whoa, baby, we'd be on fire. We'd be written up. We'd be talked about. That's the type of enthusiasm. And the number that we've got is I believe it's going to stay constant. Yeah. So part of this, as you know, is that we're going to be doing part of this. So I went out and got Bicycle, actually makes these ESP test cards. And Francis, I was thinking of you, and it's quite interesting. The shapes that they have in here, because they really expand it out. Let me just show you some of the extras that I have not seen before. Here's one. Or you can do it like that, can't you? You're getting sleepy. Relax. I like this one. And this one you can just about get it in any way. Hey, Shannon, what's up? How about this one? This one is another one. Could be like that or like that. Let's see, more colors than you can, they expand out. Here's another one. Infinity. So I really like this one. As we get better at this, we're going to begin to expand here is infinity again. This is creation right here. And then, of course, they have the standard 5 shapes, which come in a myriad of other colors. So, yeah, we're going to be having fun with this. Anybody for a little poker? We could play psychic poker. All right, I'm coining that right now. I'm putting it out there. Be able to copyright that. Psychic poker. Yeah. Oh, I'm going to have fun with that one. Well, how do you play psychic poker? Well, just give me a little bit and I'll tell you how we're going to play it. We'll be able to play it a lot better after this six-week workshop that we're going to be doing. Yeah. And, but anyway, I think these other shapes are pretty cool. All right. Having said that, who's going to kick whose ass? I'll have to show you that 3-year-old, when it talks about kicking ass. Remember what her mama said? What are you going to do if the monsters come in? Going to kick their ass. You're going to kick their ass? Yeah, because if they come in the house, they're going to try to kick my ass. Out of the mouths of babes. Boom. That's all I can say. So I'm not understanding the conversation with AFI. Is there, well, surely you're not making derogatory comments towards me, right? That's the problem when you drop in, you're going, I cheat. Well, why would you cheat? You don't need to cheat. Don't need to do that. Do it the El Natural way. That's what I say. Just as John Candy says, just go with the flow. All righty. So I like the comments. Thank you. This is exciting. We're on to something here and it's going to be fun. I mean, these egregores, if you haven't got it, and if you can, you really should. Lucky Smith, you're absolutely right. Having a hard copy of this book is where you can literally just mark it up, literally. And so many of us do that. It's like, oh, I need to remember this. How many highlighters have you gone through? Think about that. 2, 3 a year. That's a lot of marking up. That's what I'm going to say. All righty. So let's get right into the study. So really, the point here of going through this is to basically prepare us. I want to introduce you to a book. This is Annie Barrett's book. And again, it's uncanny how many things how they all flow together. It's like, wow. Thoughtforms, and here's her introduction. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on it, but I did feel that it added to the class today. As knowledge increases, the attitude of science towards things of the invisible world is undergoing considerable modification. Its attention is no longer directed solely at the earth with all its variety of objects or to the physical worlds around it, but it finds itself compelled to glance further afield and to construct hypotheses as to the nature of the matter and force which lie in the regions beyond the ken of its instruments. Ether is now comfortably settled in the scientific kingdom, becoming almost more than a hypothesis. Mesmerism, under its new name of hypnotism, is no longer an outcast. Reichenbach's experiments are still looked at askance, but are not wholly condemned. Röntgen's rays have rearranged some of the older ideas of matter, while radium has revolutionized them and is leading science beyond the borderland of ether into the astral world. The boundaries between animate and inanimate matter are broken down. magnets are found to be possessed of almost uncanny powers, transferring certain forms of disease in a way not yet satisfactorily explained. Telepathy, clairvoyance, movement without contact, thought not yet admitted to the scientific table are approaching the Cinderella stage. The fact is that science has pressed its researches so far, has used such rare ingenuity in its questionings of nature, has shown such tireless patience in its investigations, that it is now receiving the reward of those who seek, and the forces and beings of the next higher plane of nature are beginning to show themselves on the outer edge of the physical world. Nature makes no leaps, and as the physicist nears the confines of his kingdom, he finds himself bewildered by touches and gleams from another realm, which interpenetrates his own. He finds himself compelled to speculate on invisible presence, if only to find a rational explanation from the undoubted physical phenomenon. The insensibility, he slips over the boundary and is, although he does not yet realize it, contacting the astral plane. Yeah. Oh, folks, this is a journey of a lifetime. I mean, I was meditating this morning and recognizing more of just how we can't stop thinking. Even if we are anesthetized, unconscious, it just simply means that we're not in that phase of what we call consciousness. We're still thinking. Synaptic pathways are still firing. Chemicals are still being exchanged in the brain. The body takes over from its own spirit. It begins to react and feel, absent of the controlling aspect. And if you look at this from a certain point of view, the body spirit, of which we all possess, could look at us, you individually, as a spirit being, an immortal, as an egregore. Because we are, after all, nothing more than thought. At least that's my opinion. All right, so we're going to get into how tarot really begins to play into. This is a fascinating little study. So the tarot by Moni Sadhu. I believe that's right, Sadhu. So Moni Sadhu is the pen name of Dmitria Sadowski, 1898 to 1966, a Polish theosophist and Martinist. His writings indicate that he was deeply involved in Hermeticism from 1926 to 1933 and was influenced by the writings of Professor Gorgirl Ostafis Mebis, 1869 to 1930. Mebis, a leading figure of Russian Freemasonry, was also the principal literary inspiration of the Estonian Russian Christian mystic and Hermetic magician Valentine Thunberg. There's a research for you, which can clearly be seen in the latter anonymously published book, Meditations of the Tarot, a journey into Christian Hermeticism. In fact, both Sadhu's book, The Tarot, and Valentine's work are nearly identical in philosophical tone, save for one critical point. Sadhu asserts that existence of positive egregores, but for Thunberg, all egregores are ultimately demonic. I disagree, but That's his thought, and he's welcomed it. While Sadhu uses the 22 cards of the Tarot's major arcana as the basis for his presentation of Hermetic philosophy, primarily through the eyes of Martinism, he also includes the extensive amount of practical occult advice in each chapter. Tomberg takes a different tack, providing an exhaustive philosophical view of the tarot as it relates to the major esoteric trends, albeit though through the lens of Roman Catholicism. Now that's some weird shit right there. I mean, well, I read that. This is like the fifth time I've read this chapter, this book, and it's like, okay, let me get this right. So we're talking esoteric trends, philosophies, somehow embedded into Roman Catholicism, which kind of tells you a little bit about Roman Catholicism, does it not? All right, we continue, thereby giving it a sort of idealistic high medieval flavor and make it deeply inspirational, I bet. In fact, Tomberg's work has been hailed as the most beautiful and instructive book of the 20th century concerning Western esotericism by the prominent French scholar of Western esotericism, Antoine Favre of Sorbonne University. In addition, Father B. Griffiths, 1906 to 1993, the British-born Indian Benedictine monk who later became known as the Swami Dayanatha, and the internationally renowned Trappist theologian and accomplished author Abbot Thomas Keating, endorsed it publicly. The most recent edition includes an afterword by Cardinal Hans Ernst von Bleiser. 3 names are enough, right? I thought just one. Widely considered to be one of the greatest Catholic theologians of the 20th century. No small feat considering the nature of the topic presented. So we're establishing the fact that the powers to be have known about the creation of egregores. More importantly, how to not only give creation to them, but how to empower them. How to empower them to such a point and level that they begin to have a widespread influence upon other minds, i.e., you and me. For many readers, these books are the only connection they have with the teachings of Martinism as presented in the English language. These 2 volumes also contain within them a nearly complete presentation of the major themes and ideas of late 19th and early 20th century French occultism, which provide the foundation for the British, American, and Russian occult revivals of that same period. Mononi Sadhu's The Tarot lists 52 references made to egregore and egregores in its index. Egregore, this is what it's written, is a collective entity, such as a nation, state, religions, and sects, and their adherents, and even minor human organizations. The structure of egregores is similar to that of a human beings. They have physical bodies, that is, collectively all the bodies of those who belong to that particular egregore. That's why when I say England, you perceive it as what? It is a single entity made up of millions of fractals, I would say. I think that would be completely legit. They have physical bodies, that is, collectively as the bodies of those who belong to a particular egregore, and also astral and mental ones. The egregore being the sum total of all these elements. And later on, Sadhu states that in the colloquial language, it can be said that the magic chain is composed of both living and dead men, as well as elementals of different types. Now, I've been reading Manley's book. Those of you who have it, his questions on everything. And it was interesting. I was studying last night before I went to sleep, the definition of the elementals: gnomes, pygmies, orgs, fairies, dragons. And it was interesting as I was reading this, because the dragons are still here. They played such a critical role, and we can't handle it now. We're under a spell. Modern man. And those of us who are getting free of us, many of you, hello, Kaz, know these dragons, and they know you personally. All right. So Sadhu goes on to say, he further elaborates how egregores came into being. Imagine that an intelligent and well-disposed man who is able to concentrate is thinking about a good idea, giving it a certain form. He may find others who have the same or similar ideas, and so a circle of men may come into being, all who are all thinking along the same lines, but in a different form. It is as if every one of them is repeating the drawing of a plan, placing a pencil again and again on the same contours. The thing grows in strength, develops an astralism, and becomes an egregore, or collective entity. There you go. We could walk away for right now and say, well, there's a lesson. Such deep wisdom here, folks. Let's continue. Such an egregore, like each astrodome, defends, heals, and even resuscitates the physical bodies of its members, rousing them to activities and realization of the principal idea incorporated in the egregore. So, for example, an egregore of a benevolent society may urge its physical members to still more activities and work, and the attracting of new members. Egregores belonging to organizations and nations which are inimical to one another are able to fight on the astral plane, while their human beings fight on the physical plane. Wow. So I haven't seen that much deep study in modern Gnosis that this is telling. So we all are very much aware of the conflict of the world right now. Who is fighting this on the astral level? Are either country doing that? Are the other countries? I wonder. We ought to give thought to that one. If, on the physical plane, enemies destroy the bodies of members of a particular egregore, their astral bodies fortify the egregore on the astral plane, while their human beings fight in the physical world. Recall the persecutions of Christians by the Jews and the pagans in the early days of the new religion. The former won the fight because they were stronger on the astral plane. That is why the church at that time said that the blood of martyrs is the best seed for the new Christians. We could get into a forum and talk about this alone. This is so freaking deep on so many levels that it just, if it gets down into you, it is altering. Egregores can even establish themselves through various physical locations, thereby assuring their continued survival. The location or object, such as a relic, then becomes a talisman of sort, directly connected to the earth and the life experiences of the adept who established it. Now, stop here a second with me. So let's think about this. We could literally establish a being collectively that will allow us to exist in the future. We can be into the astral plane, but we will be leaving behind, if it's powerful enough, if it attracts enough. And I believe that this is what's happened in the past. Because if you look at modern day religion, they're all ancient egregores who have managed to survive millennia. That's how they've done it. Yeah. Then, this is often a natural occurrence rather than the result of rituals, invocations, or those operations limited to creating a single object exclusively for ritual purposes. It has, if you will, an element of grace. Grace is what, folks? When you hear translate, grace is favor. An element of favor about it. Some of you, I'm feeling right now, some of the freaking light bulb just blew in your freaking minds, didn't it? Uh-huh. I'm right there with you, baby. Right there with you. According to Sadhu, very advanced elements, adapts, connected with powerful egregores, usually religious ones, sometimes leave certain centers on the planet through which the egregoric forces may act, such as the graves of some saints or genuine advanced yogis, or other spots like Lourdes, the Holy Sepulchre, and some less well-known places, often accessible only to initiates. Man, is it worth the price of admission today, huh? Wow. Mark Stavish, humanity owes you a great deal. Thank you. Sadhu affirms that there exists positive and negative egregores and details of some of the psychic actions of adepts on the astral realm. These actions are designed to enhance an existing egregore or to generate a new one. And I could say the word create would work there as well. He also wanders into the discussion of psychic feeding or vampirism, vampirism of an environment to acquire psychic energy for action on the material realm. Despite the term, Sadhu is clear that this vampirism is an energetic extraction and not of the mythological blood drinking kind. This is unfortunately a poor choice of words on his part because the methods he is talking about are often considered part of a very high esoteric practice, the drinking of human blood. It's the problem I have with the former religion that I came out of. It still sickens me when I think about what is being done. And remember, It doesn't matter, folks, if it's allegorical or metaphorical or actual oracle. When you take communion of the holy sacraments, it's cannibalism. Regardless, even if you say it's not literal, ladies and gentlemen, it's literal in the astral. You are drinking blood and you are eating human flesh. That is vampirism. Flat out. You can't ignore it. You can't dance around it. It's what it is. And it's a powerful essence now. Wow. Okay. Woof, this book is deep, deep, deep. Each of these processes is initially tied to the emotional or astral strength of the adept. Now, so what would you say here? Well, you could say that they've turned Christ into an adept. The majority of practitioners, however, will not interact with these energies in astral travels, but rather in the physical world through the use of rituals. Every religious service has as one of its tenets rituals. Sadhu addresses this point succinctly and clearly when he writes, the active part of Kabbalah is, if we operate Kabbalistically with the symbols and formulas in full consciousness of their meaning, then such an operation must be reflected in a certain measure on the development of real happenings, on the changes of the astral clicks, the forms, and the mental currents. If the vast majority of humanity knew this, things would change within 24 hours. The vitalizing part of the ritual is the vocalization of the various divine names associated with the 10 spears of the tree of life. Just as God spoke the word and creation came into being, so does the adept recite the divine names and bring into being occult phenomena. They bring in occult beings. They even bring in occult worlds. I put the occult in the last two. Now you may be ready to realize the aims of the connection of the 10 names of the Thuggery and Magick. They are formulas of the separate cycles of the great diabetic process in the life of the universe. Their fullness envelops everything that has been performed and everything which will be performed. All caps, by the way. He's shouting that at us. Okay. It is, so to speak, the full reflection of the subjective understanding by the collective universal being, of the mystery belonging to the construction of the world, manifested in the signs of his initiatory language. With every Egrigoric ceremony, and with many magic ones, is connected the ritualistic pronunciation of part of the holy names, or all of them. This depends upon the kind of Sephiroth taking part in the process of raising prayers and conjurations. You see, I never realized when I was in the congregation and we started getting into these chants, mantras, we had no idea what we were doing. Yeah, therefore, exact knowledge of the names and the Sephiroth is indispensable, even for the beginning aspirant in Hermeticism and magic. If many of you don't know what the Sephiroth is, go back in the archives. I did one on the Zephyr, Saphir, excuse me. Yeah, it's the tree of life. This defines for him the ability of performing collabistic activities in any part of the diabatic process, and again, all in caps, gives him the ability to fortify his willpower with formulas contacting him with the immortal egregore of the great chain forged by the guards and masters of the white race Kabbalah. Boom. Yeah. Take a deep breath on that one. However, one need not be an official member of an egregore to be affected by it. Sadhu states that it is possible to attract sympathetic souls to an egregore for the purpose of vampirizing them. How many of you have been a victim of that? Raise your hand. That is feeding off their emotional and physical energies. Examples of this can clearly be seen in sporting events, as well as political campaigns and various forms of media manipulation. The operations of ceremonial magic do not extend only to two-plane entities, but also to incarnate ones. It is possible, under favorable conditions, of course, to invoke and compel the psychic body of a living man or woman or egregore of a chain, having incarnate representatives and so on to perform anything. This is serious shit, folks. Many of you who've been struggling in your own practices, you need to get this. You need to get this deep into you because you've been missing an element. Permission must be granted. This power of attraction and even subjugation is not limited to human beings. It extends to everything that lives in the visible and invisible worlds. And egregores are you hearing this? Egregores are living beings. Hermetic tradition is firm in the statement that everything in the universe is mutually connected and bound together or interwoven. What is the first principle? The universe is mentalism. It's all mental. It's an egregore. This is important. Exclamation point. If you realize this, many of your troubles, fears, and uncertainties will cease to exist. For this reason, Sadhu, like Jean Dubai, encourages students to work with their own weak Kabbalah instead of that of someone else's or that of a group. Work with your own images. Work with your own prayers, your own invocations, and mantras that are derived from your understanding of the Kabbalah so as to limit the influence of various egregores may have on you. You cannot avoid them. You cannot ignore them. Doesn't matter if you ignore them. They don't give a crap. Got to read that again. This power of attraction and even subjugation is not limited to human beings. It extends to everything that lives in the visible and invisible worlds. And egregores are living beings. Hermetic tradition is firm in the statement that everything in the universe is mutually connected and bound together or interwoven. This is important. If you realize this, many of your troubles, fears, and uncertainties will cease. Wow. We continue. Various interpretations of demons and evil. The framework for Valentine Tomberg's discussion of egregores falls primarily under the heading of the tarot card known as the devil. Now, we understand what happened, that Baphomet, Mr. Levy's creation, they perverted it. So as long as you have that understanding. For Tomberg, the 15th arcana is the symbolic embodiment of psychic and magical creations of all egregores. What do you think about that, Jen and Nina? All egregores are then demonic. Boy, talk about guilty by association. Yikes. Because they are a creation, get this, of man's desire and result in humanity being chained to a false god or ideal. Now, there's merit on that debate right here. Although I wonder what Tomberg's response would be, though, that the fact that he's using demonic in a structure of a term based upon Abrahamic traditions. And furthermore, if we were to do the derivative of the word itself, we know that it's actually divine ones. Okay. Here, Tomberg directs the reader to a discussion of evil, the nature of demons, how they come into being, and the key point and nature of all spiritual practices, as it is also the danger therein. Every spiritual exercise tends to lead to the identification of the meditant with the subject of meditation, i.e., to an act of intuition, the 15th arcana of the tarot. So insofar as it is a spiritual exercise, cannot and must not lead to an experience of identification of the meditant with the subject of meditation. I fully don't quite get the thought there, but all right. One should not arrive at an intuition of evil, since intuition is identification and identification is communion. That's screwed up. I don't care what anyone says. I mean, if you took this outside the context of what's being spoken, crap. Don't bogart that joint, man. Pass it over. Jeez. He further states, one ought not to occupy oneself with evil. Well, dude, if I just followed your train of thought in the above paragraph, how do you not arrive at evil? Other than in keeping a certain distance and certain reserve. If one wishes to avoid the risk of paralyzing the creative elan, and a still greater risk, that of furnishing arms to the powers of evil. Did you get that? Furnishing the arms to the powers of evil. The world of evil is a chaotic world, at least as it presents itself to the observer. One ought not to enter this jungle if one does not want to lose one's way there. One should be an observer from the outside. Well, hey, I can understand where he's coming from. I would challenge the thought that if I merely observe, I have no connection with the experience. I mean, I've flown in planes. I have never flown a plane. Would love to. I've been in simulators. Would love to. And then again, how am I supposed to then expand if all I'm doing is observing and not experiencing? And if there is one who is both an observer and an experiencer, doesn't that make them technically superior? They have an element that the observer would never have any basis of reality to know. I continue. While it is easy enough to ignore this warning because of the actual or perceived religious bias of the author, similar statements have been made by more iconalistic individuals. In fact, a passive preoccupation with evil, particularly as expressed by many piety-seeking faithful who have an overwhelming desire to avoid evil and therefore see it existing everywhere, unconsciously consumes them. I mean, I've said this before in my former religion. I mean, you'd have, when, you call a congregation for prayer and you'd hear story after story. Well, the devil's kicking my ass, this is happening, that's happening. And you're going, why are you in the building then? I mean, if you're serving this God, it seems like it ain't working for you. Blasphemy, Steiger, blasphemy. In the same manner, one would eat. So how does this work? And it's the same manner of one would eat an elephant, one small bite at a time. We need only examine the lies of those who constantly speak of evil to see the truth in this statement. Again, you got more people that believe in hell that don't even believe in a religion. I see people say it all the time, go to hell. Why, you're going to hell. You don't ever hear them say, hey, go to heaven. Hey, you're going to heaven. Yeah. Nah, hey, you're going to hell. Hey, up yours, Okay. In his book of odd and curious anecdotes of the paranormal, Swimming Where Madmen Drown, Travelers' Tales from Inner Space, Robert Masters recounts the experience he had with evil while researching a book on witchcraft. Masters, who was a leading figure of the human potential movement, together with his wife, Jean Houston, writes that in the 1960s, he arranged to live in Arkansas in the Ozark Mountains near White River. Hello, Clinton, for 1 year for the purpose of research and writing. The book he was researching was Eos and Evil, the sexual the psychopathological of witchcraft. He addressed the anti-sexual themes that ran through the medieval witchcraft trials. Masters asserts that as a result of dealing with the cruel and violent nature of the material, several authors of histories of witchcraft have experienced severe clinical depression. Now, if you go back and study that period, I did one. It's been, you have to be, it's mature. Wow. The society, religion was pretty sick. Pedophilia ran amok. Just to name a few. He then goes on to detail the variety of phenomena that he himself began to experience. Phenomenon he observed that was identical to what he was reading about in his research. This includes infestations of scorpions, centipedes, and tarantulas. Holy crap. As well as dead birds and animals began to show up on the property at which he was residing, along with dead vegetation and trees, sudden flooding from a dry creek bed, and gust of winds that created whirlpools of dust and looking like something one would more likely encounter in the desert. Overall, there was a kind of psychic pall that hung over the place. And friends who came to visit me during that time remarked in one way or another about the extremely oppressive feeling of the place. Almost as soon as my book was completed, the whole array of phenomenon vanished at once. I remained for another 8 months or so, and they never reappeared. Master states that he believes this was a clear-cut, complex, and powerful example of mind, and possibly soul as well, interacting with nature. Yeah. Similar phenomena was noted by Aleister Crowley pertaining to his research into the Qualipith, or the demonic forces of the Kabbalah. Noted author James Wasserman had his own odd experiences with similarly strange phenomena, which he described in his autobiography, In the Center of Fire, a memoir of the occult, 1966 to 1989. Wasserman, along with the mysterious Simon and Larry Barnes, were instrumental in publishing the Avon books, mass-marketed paperback of the Necromon. The Necromon is a fictional book of Babylonian magic invented by H.P. Lovecraft, one of the most influential and important writers of fantasy and horror. According to the Lovecraftian lore, the Necromon was written by a mad Arab, Abdul Azard, in Damascus in 730 CE. Translations are said to have been made their way through the hands of the great occultists across the ages, including John Dee. The entire basis of the Necromon is its focus on supposedly containing the secrets of an ancient cult who worshipped the old ones. We've done studies on that. These old ones are a race of tentacled monsters who are described as being of extraterrestrial origin. Themes around the Necromon and its purported power to drive those who come in contact with it insane play an important role in several of Lovecraft's most popular stories. It also influenced an entire genre of its own, with numerous spin-off stories by other authors, as well as inspired imitators. Since its appearance in 1978, the Simon edition of the Necromon has continuously been in print. What a loony period of the Necromon production would be. For some reason, nearly everyone who entered our loft shed blood. Others were constantly cutting themselves in minor accidents. The one night I got a frantic call from a typewriter downstairs. Their loft had been overrun by rats bursting through the walls. The temple in my own loft had a padlock on the outside door so it could be sealed as a private space for my magical work. On July 4th, Jane and I returned from dinner and fireworks. I had an uneasy feeling when we walked through the loft door. It's self-secured by a heavy-duty police lock. I discovered that my temple door was open, that the that the hasp had been broken, and that this appeared to have been occurred from the inside out. Nothing else in the loft was in the slightest bit disturbed. I think I'm going to break off there because we don't have enough time to cover the rest of this, but what a study today. Wow. I hope you found this illuminating. Wow. I mean, this is just some of the heaviest. There is such deep knowledge here. They don't teach this. I can honestly say the way Mark has put it out in the manner, I wish I had learned this decades ago. Decades ago, I'm telling you. It's freeing knowledge. And I hope you're beginning to see kind of like the theme to this. You cannot avoid it. So if we cannot avoid it, these thought forms, I mean, isn't that what the Bible is? In the beginning was what? God? Well, what's God? A thought? Couldn't be anything else. Hey, Jack Dreaming. Yes, it was. Yes, I'm glad it did. Glad it did. Like I said, and this is like, I think the 5th or 6th time I've read this, but every time I'm reading it, it sinks a little deeper, and that gnosis, that knowing is affirmed. It rises, you're going, I can talk to these thought forms now that try to attack me from the outside. I can address them for what they are. And sometimes it is game on. AFI, you're right. It is. It's a game on. I mean, you got to be in there, because if it's like we discussed the other day, those who have a problem shutting their minds off is that they're just energy. They're there for the parasites to feed off of. Anyway, hey, Linda, what's up? Yeah, thanks, folks. I appreciate that. Listen, I love this group. This group is a powerful group, becoming powerful all the time. When we share this knowledge, this is the type of knowledge that will change people's lives. So many emails I've gotten, people who have tried to commit suicide. They found this group. I did hear from Heidi, Martin and Heidi. Remember, Martin passed on a couple of months ago. Well, Tony, their dog, she unfortunately had to put Tony down, and very touching email. It did make me cry, Heidi. I have to say that. So she's going to be taking a break. She's had a lot to deal with, and folks, we just send your energy to her. She it's a very difficult time. It's a lonely place. And the best that we can do is surround her with love and support, reach out to Martin and Tony in the Astral. And that's how we do it here. That's what makes this a soul tribe. It's not a physical tribe, it's a soul tribe. Thank you, Lost in Space. Appreciate it. Hey, Brandy, Divine Empress. So just send her love and she can use it. All right. I will see y'all tomorrow. Tune in to Nina over her channel, Nina the Mystic, here at the top of the hour. And hey, get ready for lesson number 3 tomorrow. It gets better. I mean, today was just mind-blowing. I got the book, and I'm going to go tonight. I'm going to reread it along with what I'm reading again. This is stuff good. Hey, Grace, how you doing, dear? Yeah, it is an eye opener, isn't it? Hey, Mary Wins, thank you, darling. All right, everyone. Much love to you. See you tomorrow. All right. Bye-bye.